So Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to our level 2 Gita Gyan. And we will be continuing today with the Gita Mahatmya, chapter 8. So let's start with the prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Iti Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. So we are continuing with our Gita Mahatmya and we have now come to chapter 8. So this is again the conversation that took place between Lord Shiva and Parvati, where Lord Shiva is recounting another conversation which took place between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi Devi. So in this, Lord Shiva tells Parvati, "My dear Parvati, now please listen to the glories of the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. After listening to this, you will feel great joy." So after you hear this story, you'll be amazed. Then you will feel like, oh, there is definitely lots of wonderful opportunities for us to go back to the Supreme Lord. So this story is starting off in a town in South India. So, and before we go into the name of the town and all, so South India is very famous. It's famous because the river Kaveri flows from its summit somewhere in Karnataka. It flows throughout the South Indian area. So Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they have this Kaveri river flowing. And it's described in the scriptures that wherever the Kaveri river flows, over there, very wonderful devotees will take birth, especially in the Kali Yuga. So that's why we see nowadays, mostly in the south of India, the devotion is still very strong. Whereas in other parts of India, due to Muslim conquering and all that, it's not so much established, but you will find a lot of wonderful, beautiful traditions still intact, and a lot of devotion still in these places, where the river Kaveri flows. So, just a bit of background about the South Indian city where the river Kaveri flows. Now, the place where the Kaveri flows, there are 5 very famous temples. And these temples together are called Pancharanga Kshetram. Pancharanga Kshetram or Pancharangam. Pancharangam. Pancha means 5, and 5 temples dedicated to Ranganath. So, Pancharanga Kshetram. Holy place means Kshetram. So the first one is Sri Rangapatna, which is called Adi Rangam. Why is called Adi Rangam? Because that's where it starts. So it begins there, right? So from that point, it starts flowing. So the temple in that area is called Sri Rangapatna. So this is a picture of Sri Rangapatna, Adi Rangam in Karnataka. And then as the river flows through, and then even towards the end of the, at the end of where it meets the Bay of Bengal and empties into the ocean. So that's where we have, of course, our very famous temple, the largest temple in the world, which is Sri Rangam. So Kasturi is also called Kasturi Rangam or Antya Rangam. Antya means the end. Because usually in Vaishnava culture, there is, especially in Sri Vaishnava culture, there is 108 Divya Deshams. So Sri Rangam is considered the last. So if I'm not mistaken, so therefore it's called sometimes Antya Rangam. So this is in Tamil Nadu. And then after that, these two I mentioned, the Adi and the Antya, the beginning and the end. So in between, the river flows through Appalarangam or Appakudatam or Koviladi, which is in Tirupirnagar in Tamil Nadu. I can only say these things all because I've never been to any of these places. So hopefully by all your blessings, one day I can go. And then on the 4th one is, after that is Parimala Ranganatha at Tiruvindalur, Tamil Nadu. And then we have Vatararangam near Sirkali in Tamil Nadu. So therefore together they are called Pancharanga Kshetram. All of them glorify Lord Sri Ranga, which is the Lord lying down on Anantasesh, that form. So anyway, the story begins, Lord Shiva describes in the south, there is an important town of the name of Amarta Kapur. So this town is no longer existing in current times. Maybe it's been renamed or what, but I couldn't really find any reference when I was searching for it. So probably it's lost in antiquity. So this is Amarta Kapur, right? And in this town, there was a Brahmana. So this Brahmana, his name was Bhava Sharma. So that's his name. Now, having said that, although he is a Brahmana and he was living as a Brahmana also, one of the things Brahmanas can do, they can accept charity, they can give charity. And then they can teach and they can learn the scriptures. And then they can teach yagya, fire sacrifices, and they can also perform fire sacrifices. So these are the 6 activities, which is this is basically the 6 activities of the Brahmana. So if you look at the Varna system, there is, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So like that, the Kshatriyas, they have they have their own set of activities, which includes fighting, protecting Dharma, and then the Vaishyas, mainly it's about cow protection and growing food crops and doing business. And then like that, the Shudras basically is to obediently serve and have faith. So like that. So there are different aspects. So although he is a Brahmana, however, he was a cheater, unfortunately. So he had a very bad, due to bad association, he became a cheater. So you see, in many of these stories, we talk about how Brahmanas have fallen due to their bad association. So association is therefore very important. So in Srila Prabhupada will always tell us 4 important rules, A, B, C, D. A begins with association. If we want to be serious in our spiritual life, we have to be careful about who we associate with. So then we will maintain. So association, B for books, C for chanting, and D for diet, prasadam, and also deities, worshipping them. And E sometimes people add for Ekadasi. So these are the ABCDEs. So anyway, association is very, very important. It's the foremost value actually. If you see even Naragasura, how did Naragasura become Naragasura? Naragasura is also called what do you call Baumasura. So he was actually the son of Bhuma Devi. When Varahadev, Vishnu in the form of Varahadev, picked up the earth, due to the touch of Varahadev, Lord Bhuma Devi, she conceived. And she had a son called, at that time he wasn't called Naragasura, just Naraga, I don't know what was his name. Bauma, yeah, his name was Bauma because he was born to the earth. But due to bad association, he associated with another demon. I forgot the name. I think it's Mura demon, or no, not Mura. It's one of the demons. And due to bad association, so he had parents of Varaha and Bhuma Devi. But still, due to mixing with bad people, he became an Asura and had to be killed by Krishna and Satyabhama. So this is very important. So what happens is this Bhava Sharma, due to bad association, he became a very, very sinful person. He had taken a prostitute as his wife. So, you know, a very loose woman to become his wife, attracted by his beauty, by her beauty and her charms and everything. So he also was like-minded in that nature. So, you know, of the same type, birds of a feather flock together eventually. And he, though being a Brahmana, he enjoyed eating meat and drinking wine and alcoholic beverages. And he also liked to steal things. He was an expert thief. He liked to go and steal things from people. In this way, he maintained his self. And he also was not a very faithful person because his wife was also not faithful, and they lived their life like that. So he would go and dally with other people's wives. And on top of that, he also enjoyed hunting animals. Very strange to hear this, but somehow, you know, we have all sorts of combinations in this world. So this is what he was doing. So despite him living in such a wonderful city, you know, the south, full of temples and all that, Brahminical, but still somehow he had this bad association and he became fallen. In fact, he was so addicted to his sinful activities, he basically, he loved to drink, so most of all, alcoholic beverages. So one day, that sinful Bhava Sharma was invited to a party. So he went to a party where he drank so much alcohol that it's described that it actually started to come out of his mouth. Come out of his mouth and nose. He was vomiting it out. So much he drank until it was like he couldn't keep it inside. And due to this over excess, you know what happens when people drink too much? They will usually, you know, start vomiting the next day. So what happened to him? He also became sick, and he somehow became sick, and he suffered from a very chronic dysentery. So, you know, he had loose motion and he was vomiting and passing loose motion and things like that. And it went on for many days of suffering. And then finally, he died. And then when he died, after being judged and all, he attained the body of a palm tree. So after going to hell and all that. So eventually he got this body of a date palm tree, you know, dates. So date palm tree, he got that body. And then what happened? then what happened was this date palm tree became the home of two entities. So it became the home of two Brahma Rakshasas, two types of special ghosts. Now, amongst all the ghost species, it is said that the Brahma Rakshasas are the most powerful, extremely powerful. It is not easy to dispel or to get rid of a Brahma Rakshasa if we are so unfortunate to get, disturbed by such a creature. So, who are Brahma Rakshasas? Brahma Rakshasas are Brahmanas in their previous life who, due to their sinful activities or due to some kind of curse, they ended up in this way as Brahma Rakshasas. So they are cursed in this form, but they are very, very powerful amongst all of them. So not an ordinary, what do you call, what's that word they use? Exorcism. Not an ordinary exorcism wouldn't work so easily on them because they also have Brahma Tejas. The Brahma Tejas which they had previously, it became converted. It became, corrupted in this way, and therefore they become quite powerful. So anyway, there's a story behind this Brahma. So these two Brahma Rakshasas, they came and lived in this date palm tree. So they took shelter of that tree, and they also have a story. So the story is basically in their previous life, before they became Brahma Rakshasas, they were also Brahmanas. So as I said, right, Brahma Rakshasas are previously Brahmanas who are condemned to live their life in this way. And the name of this Brahmana there is a husband and wife. So a male Brahmana, a husband, and the wife. So the husband's name was called Kushibal, and he was it was many hundreds of years ago, very ancient. So this Kushibal was very learned in the Vedas, and he was a good Brahmana. He was very learned in the Vedas and had studied all branches of knowledge. He knew a lot of things. The Vedas have different branches, and he had studied them. He was quite intelligent, knowledgeable. And his wife's name was Kumati. So this is Kushibal and Kumati. But unfortunately, despite all of their learning, they never understood the purport of those learning. They became very proud, and at the same time, they were very evil-minded. And they were very miserly, despite learning so many parts of the scriptures, being expert, but they could not, they did not really use it to change themselves. It was simply academically unlearned, and they really didn't have so much of faith in many things also. So this Brahmana was very learned, but he was also very greedy. So along with his wife, he used to collect lots of charity from his learning, because people would pay and then they will come. So Brahmana is supposed to accept charity, but he's also supposed to give charity, because a Brahmana is supposed to live in a very simple life. He's not supposed to amass wealth and become rich and all that. He's supposed to voluntarily live a poverty-stricken life, so that they live simply. The idea is simple living, high thinking, surrendering and depending on the Lord for their existence. That is the type of. So even many years ago, even quite a few hundred years ago also, there were Brahmanas who would never accept undue amount of charity. Only what is enough to keep the body and soul together and to basically maintain the family. So in this way, simply by begging only. They do not charge for services. This is the nature of Brahmana. Even in recent times also, during the Chandragupta Maurya, Chandragupta Maurya's empire, Chandragupta Maurya had a very able Brahmana minister, and his name was what's his name? It escapes my mind now. Chanakya Pandit. Okay, Chanakya Pandit. So he's a very famous personality, Chanakya. There's lots of books. Chanakya was he was very famous because he managed to keep the Persians and the Mughals out of India as long as he was there. and at the same time made Chandragupta Maurya very, very popular and very powerful, and India was very strong at that time. So, and it's all due to the intelligence of this Chanakya Pandit. So he was an expert logician, but at the same time, he never lived in the palace. He would keep himself in a simple hut, and he will not accept salary from the king, despite being a minister. And this is how he used to live very simply. So this was just few hundred years ago. So like that, this is how Brahmanas lived their life. But this Brahmana, Kushibal and his wife Kumati, they were very greedy. They took charity and they will not give charity in return to other Brahmanas. So this is how they lived. So finally, when the time came to die, they both attained the forms of, due to their nature, due to how they have lived their life, they became Brahma Rakshasas. This is what happens, with great privilege also comes great responsibility. So a Brahmana is supposed to be the top of the social chain. So people respect Brahmanas, but at the same time, great responsibility is also there for them. If they fail to take these responsibilities, they also, fall down further compared to others. So as Brahma Rakshasas, what happened? When they finally died, they became Brahma Rakshasas. And in this way, they continuously wandered here and there over the earth for a long period of time, suffering from hunger and thirst. So I mentioned this before, ghostly body is not a happy body, because they have the desires and the hankering, they have thirst and they have hunger, but they cannot satisfy them. No matter what they do, they can only, just a bit, just a shadow of the hunger can be satiated. So in this way, they roam around the world. So this is the nature of ghosts. And even if Brahma Rakshasa also, they get the same treatment also. So one day, while they have taken shelter under this palm tree, at that time, the female Brahma Rakshasa ghost, the Kumuti, what's her name? What I said, Kumati, yeah. So this female Brahma Rakshasa, she asked her previous husband, this Kushibal, and then she asked him, oh my fellow husband ghost, can you tell how we can be free from this curse of being a Brahma Rakshasa? So initially, when they were Brahma Rakshasa, they used to terrorize people and everything, but they got tired of it after many, many years. So therefore, she is asking, do you know, you have learned so much, right? You have so much of knowledge. Surely you must know something, and you are supposed to be expert at everything. So how can we get free from this cause of being a Brahma Rakshasa? And then the husband replied, by knowledge of Brahman, by knowledge of the self, by knowledge of fruitive activities, without such knowledge, it is not possible to get free from our sinful reactions. So we have to have this knowledge. So then what happened was, this wife, she asked back, Kim Tat Brahma, in Sanskrit, right? Can you tell me what is this Brahma? Can you tell me what is this self? And can you tell me what is this activities, fruitive activities? So she asked these three questions in Sanskrit. But, by amazing chance, right? She accidentally, by saying these three words, by asking this to her husband, she accidentally chanted the first part of the first shloka of chapter 8 Bhagavad Gita. So if this is the chapter 8 Bhagavad Gita, Kim Tat Brahma, Kim Adi Atma, Kim Karma. So this is the first part of the chapter 8 first verse, which she chanted. She asked, she said it in Sanskrit, and it happened to be the same. Immediately, what happened? The date tree also happened to hear this. Trees, you could say they can't really hear, but by the effect of hearing the ghost speaking, asking this question, the date tree immediately broke down, lost its date tree form, and again this form of this Brahmana, Bhavasharma Brahmana, he again retained his form as Bhavasharma somehow. It's like as if he changed form. From the tree, he became Bhavasharma. He didn't even take birth again. He just appeared as Bhavasharma and broke free from that form as a tree. And again, he attained this body, free, and not only that, he became free from all sin. And suddenly from the sky, at the same time, from the sky came a flower aeroplane, Pushpaka Vimana. And this flower aeroplane came to take back two personalities back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. And these two personalities are the Brahma Rakshasa ghosts, the wife and the husband. Simply by speaking half a verse of the 8th chapter, the Brahma Rakshasa lost they gave up that horrible body. And not only that, they became completely purified. And in this way, they attained Vishnu Loka or Vaikuntha. And then what happened to this Brahmana, this Bhavasharma? This Bhavasharma, oh, he had a change of thoughts already, epiphany, complete paradigm shift in his thinking. And he has gone through the situation, and then he has heard this and he saw what had happened. So somehow because the ghosts actually already spent a lot of their time suffering on earth, their karma was almost going to be completed. And after that, they would again continue with the cycle. But because they asked with faith, and this lady, the ghost, the female ghost, asked sincerely, what is these three things? With great hope, because she was so tired of this life of a ghost. And with desperation and great hope, she asked this to the husband. And in this way, she became completely purified. And the husband, hearing this sloka being chanted, he was also having the same mood. And in connection with her wife, because husband and wife, they share karma. So in this way, he also became purified. And they were able to remove all sins and go back to Vaikuntha. Whereas this Bhavasharma, he also completely cleared his sins, and he again got back the body of a human, and with his memory intact and with all his, got back the same form. So what did he do? With great respect, he wrote down that his hands shaking. With great respect, he wrote down this half verse, Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adi Atman, Kim Karma, from the 8th chapter of the first sloka of this Bhagavad Gita. He didn't know at that time that this was the sloka. And with great respect, he wrote it down, and he started repeating, he started chanting this, chanting, and he left this place and went to Kashipuri, to Varanasi. He took a voyage to Varanasi, and he went there to pray to the lordships, Sri Radha Krishna. There's a temple there in Varanasi, and this is the temple of the Krishna temple at Asigat. It's called Asigat. It's in Varanasi, in Uttar Pradesh. So anyway, he took darshan of them, and he lived his life over there, and he became a great devotee. And not only he said this half verse, he started reciting the full 8th chapter completely. So by chanting the 8th chapter completely, in this way, eventually when he died, he also went back to Vaikuntha Loka. So this Varanasi there's a nice Krishna temple there. And you can also see in ISKCON, this is ISKCON temple in Varanasi. We also have a temple there. And these are our deities, Sri Radha Gopalji. And you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there as well. So in this way, this Brahmana, he attained Vaikuntha. So meanwhile, the story is not ended yet, almost. In Vaikuntha, Lakshmi Devi will ask Lord Vishnu, because Lord Vishnu, she will see Lord Vishnu resting, and then suddenly he will wake up from his rest. And then as he woke up, Lord Lakshmi Devi will ask Vishnu, why have you suddenly risen from your sleep? And then Lord Vishnu says, my dear Lakshmi, in Kashipuri, on the bank of the river Ganga, my devotee Bhava Sharma is performing great austerities and continuously chanting half a shloka of the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And for a long time, I have been thinking how to award him devotion. But now he has done it. He is by chance, by actually not chance, it's by arrangement, by Agyata Sukruti, in some way, he has got this devotion. So in this way, he is now able to return back to me. So after hearing this, Parvati asked Lord Shiva, when Lord Vishnu was so pleased with his devotee, what kind of benediction did he bestow upon this Bhava Sharma? So Lord Shiva responds. He says, Bhava Sharma went to Vaikuntha to engage in the eternal service of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Not only that, but all of his ancestors also attained the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu due to his piety as a devotee. So he became a pure devotee. And in this way, he attained the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And my dear Parvati, Lord Shiva continues, I have described to you just a little of the glories of the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So in this way, we can understand the glory of the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Akshara Brahma Yoga. The title is very specific, attaining the Supreme, Akshara Brahma. Akshara Brahma means the Supreme. So therefore, Akshara means to attain. So how to attain this? So since this topic is very much about attainment, it's very, very special, especially for those people who are on the brink of death. So it's a very nice chapter to recite to people who are dying. So, what should one do when somebody is dying? So there are many wonderful things one can do. The last thing you want to make them remember is to remember your family members and to think about mundane material things. We would want them as much as possible to hear Bhagavad Gita or to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or the pastimes of Krishna or to hear bhajan. We want them to leave their body by chanting the names of Krishna. That is the ideal way to leave the body. So therefore, reading, if they can, sometimes, dying people, they cannot read or they cannot think. So if we are there, we can also help them. So usually it's nice to recite this Bhagavad Gita verses, and especially particularly chapter 8 is very, very good for people who are dying. So this is the story. So it might sound that, oh, this is so easy just by doing this, So Prabhupada tells us we should not consider that that these stories are a figment of our imagination. It's actually one of the aparats. So there are 10 aparats. Aparat means offenses to the holy names of the Lord. So one of the aparat is, like, for example, to consider the descriptions given in the scriptures to be an imagination, or to consider, this is all actually, it's actually, this is true. All these things are true, and it depends on each individual situation. We do not know the details of each particular person's karma. So accordingly, sometimes those things are not given in full detail, but it also depends on the faith. Very much, actually, it depends on the faith. So faith cannot be measured. We do not know the faith of another person. So to that extent, one has faith, and to that extent, one does these activities. To that extent, it is very, very powerful. Same thing with chanting Hare Krishna and everything. So we begin with little faith. So with that little faith, it gets strengthened, becomes stronger and stronger until it reaches different levels. So faith has different levels. One day, we can discuss about the different levels of faith, how one increases from one stage to another. So there are nice terms for it. It starts with Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and then what do you call Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. So like that it goes on. Ruchi, before Ruchi, there are 9 stages of bhakti. The highest stage is prema, and that is full what you call love of God. So anyway, so that's why I said bhakti is a science. It's a step-by-step, stage-by-stage process in which we can develop and strengthen our faith. So this faith is obtained by us from this agyata sukruti. By performing these activities and increasing our credits, our spiritual credits, we are able to slowly develop our faith. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita, what are the lessons probably we can understand from this? So there are a few lessons. For example, one point is we learned about the duties of a Brahmana. So what I mean the what are the duties of the Brahmana? So charity is very important, particularly for a Brahmana, and he cannot actually hoard the wealth, hoard the charity which he has received. He has to give it away, and he has to live in a simple life. Then we also heard about how, of course, we know, this kind of sinful activities eventually leads to what? So that's another warning in the sense that we want to avoid this kind of sinful activities. We heard about the power of association also. And then we also heard about what you call how life is continuous. It's not that when life ends it's the end of the story. So that we have already established before, but again this story illustrates this point. So life after life, one has to take different births, and one can even fall down from a human form of life. And plant life is very bad, and even worse than plant life, ghostly life, this is very, very bad. So like that, so this kind of situation is very horrible. And at the same time, the Lord's mercy is also beautifully described. How the Lord is so merciful, he finds different ways to somehow attract the devotees. Because the people have, because of our desire, our raga and dvesha, because of our attachment and aversion, because of our lack of bhakti, we have fallen into this material ocean. So pursuing our desires and wanting to become the Lord, wanting to enjoy separately from the Lord. So in this way, we are traversing the material creation. And as we are traversing, we get trapped with the karma. But the Lord takes, is out of his compassion, he tries in different ways to give, methods of how we can go back. So like I said before, 6 boats, right? The first boat is Charanamrita, one who is so fortunate. So like this, whatever stories I'm telling from the Gita Mahatmya, there are like that stories for all of these 6 boats. So many stories on how people who have drunk Charanamrita, who have perfected their lives. So many stories on Ganga, people who have worshipped Ganga with great devotion and taken bath in Ganga, thinking of the Lord, or died in that way, they have attained the Supreme Lord also. And then the third boat was, we talked about Ekadasi. Ekadasi, those who die on Ekadasi certainly are very auspicious. They don't, it's definitely an auspicious situation which they will achieve. And like that, Tulasi Maharani worship. So that's why, devotees also worship Tulasis, and they wear Tulasi Mala. The bead, the neck bead. You see usually Hare Krishna devotees, they have neck beads. So this is also made out of Tulasi. And devotees would never want to be away from Tulasi. They wear these neck beads at all times. Never is there a time when the devotee is not wearing a Tulasi beads. So it's basically there is one scripture which it says that as long as one is associating with Tulasi, Yamaraj and Yamadutas will never come to you. So a person can never go to hell if he is wearing, even touching Tulasi in some way when he is dying. So that's why what to do when people are dying, bring tulasi and put tulasi on their head. We don't bring unoffered tulasi, we bring offered tulasi and we bring it and put it on the head. We cannot put it on the lower part of the leg because that is, we cannot put it on the legs and all. So it is offensive. So sometimes people take garlands and they put, and then later they put the garland at the feet. So this is all very offensive. So one has to put it on, sometimes they put it in the mouth. For dead people, cremation is done with a tulasi twig. So we take a tulasi twig and then we put, and then in this way, it also creates a lot of auspiciousness for the departed. So like that, tulasi. And then the fifth boat is, okay, what are the six boats? We have Charanamrita, Ganga, Ekadasi, Tulasi, and then the fifth one is scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So the Gita Mahatmya is fully glorifying Bhagavad Gita. So like that, we also have wonderful glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam as well. And the last one is the holy name, the most powerful of all of them. So especially in Kali Yuga. All these other methods is there to increase our faith. But if we want the topmost goal of spirituality, if we want to attain Prema Bhakti, then the fastest and the easiest method is by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti, Kalau Nasti, Kalau Nasti, Gatir Anyataha. Kali Santarana Upanishad, it says that in this age of Kali, it is only the chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name of the Lord, which will deliver us from this cycle of birth and death. So that is also there. So therefore, devotees take advantage of all of these, and we try to ensure that we become purified in this way. So chapter 8, let's talk about chapter 8. Let me check the time. Okay, we are well in time. So chapter 8, basically, if we study the chapter, it's the subtopics are quite simple. It is just two subtopics. One is, in the beginning, Arjuna will ask questions to Krishna. So just like how we heard in this story, Arjuna will ask, Kim Tad Brahma? What is this living entity? Kim Adi Atman? What is this eternal nature? Kim Karma? What is this action pertaining to the development of material bodies? And then he will go on asking some other things also. What is Adi Bhutam? What are the physical nature which is constantly changing? What is Adi Devam, the universal form of the Lord? What is Adi Yagya, right? What is the one? What is the Lord of who is the Lord of the sacrifices? So in this way, he will ask all these questions, and Krishna will give his reply to all of this. So and then he will also start off by saying how to attain him. After giving the answers of what is Brahma, what is Adhyatma, what is Karma, what is all this, he will in the end summarize it by saying, whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. So this is a very, very important revelation, which we have heard in chapter 8. So for the first time in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 8, verse 5, Krishna tells the secret of how we can control what is our next destination at the time of death. So at the time of death, we have to be very careful about what we think about. So whatever we think at the time of death, we will attain. What's the proof? Whatever state, verse 6, right? Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So, right, there are many, many stories in the scripture also. There is a story about Jada Bharat. So this is Bharat Maharaj. You know, India is named after Bharat, right? So as a personality, Bharata. So this Bharat Maharaj, he gave up his kingdom, and then he became a renunciate. He went to the forest to live alone, to practice spiritual activities. But along the way, somehow, it's a long story, but along the way, he got attached to a deer in the forest. And it so happened that when he died, at the time of his death, he met with a sort of like an accident. And then when he died, the last thought he had was, oh my, if I die, what will happen to this young deer? It's a baby deer. He saved the baby deer actually. What will happen to this baby deer? So in this way, he thought of this baby deer and he died. So even though he performed all his spiritual activities, the purpose of all these things is for us to remember the Lord at the time of death. So we do all that we do, all this yagya, all this sacrifice, all this sadhana, the daily activities that we do is ultimately to make us remember the Lord at the end of life, naturally. And to remember the Lord at the end of life is not easy, because at the time of death, we can see one is actually burning in a type of fever. There is a kind of a brain fever, which is actually makes a person very difficult to concentrate. It is described that the vata, pitta, and kapha, the five humors, the three humors in the body, right? Vata, pitta, and kapha. These things will choke our breath, and the type of agony one goes through is very difficult to bear. So therefore, it's not easy to be coherent at that time, and it's not easy to think of anything properly at that time. So it is also said that at the time of death, everything that we have done in our life will go through like a reel, like a video. Within a few seconds, all the activities that we have gone through in our life from birth and whatever that we remember, the more important things. So those things which are very important to us, those things will take a longer time to run in our mind. So if we happen to die at one of those points, so that's the problem. So that's why we have to spiritualize our lives. So in this way, chanting the holy names of the Lord, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Shravanam, by hearing the glories of the Lord, we develop our faith. We start our process of devotional activity. And continuously, by hearing, we start chanting, Kirtanam. And by this chanting and hearing, we will be able to, the next thing is Smaranam, remember. So then comes remembrance. So this is the key. Shravanam, Kirtanam, then comes Smaranam. Apologies if I mute. Okay. All right. So therefore, he tells, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. And then he continues, right? How to attain Krishna. So the Lord tells, he who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So this is very important. This is basically to let us know how we can attain the Supreme Lord. So we have to focus our life. So it's not enough that, we can do all nonsense in our lives, and towards the time of death, we say, okay, let me try to, it's not so easy at the time. We may be fortunate, we don't know. The Lord may be very merciful, but at the same time, the pure devotee will try to, take up the process. It's never too late, certainly. Anytime one takes it up, one is able to make great advancements very quickly. But the idea is, why wait, right? Death can occur at any time. So therefore, it is best to be prepared. So for one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So here he gives another clue. He talks about how by doing devotional service, one can easily remember him without deviation. So this is the important point also. So we have to do these devotional services. So for example, all this chanting, kirtanam, smaranam, these 6 boats, serving Tulasi, constantly taking charanamrita, chanting the names of the Lord, reading scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, reciting it. All this is Bhakti Seva. doing deity worship for the Lord, offering him food, singing for him. All these things are serving the pure devotee of the Lord. This is all devotional service. And the most important devotional service is chanting the names of the Lord. So in this way, we can easily remember the Supreme Lord and without deviation, and one is able to attain. Now, we have seen many times, even when Prabhupada died, when Prabhupada left the world, he was till the last breath, he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. He was not reciting, he was translating, because he did not complete the translations for Srimad Bhagavatam. He went up to Canto 12. Mostly it's done. So, sorry, Canto 10. There are 12 cantos altogether. He went up to Canto 10. And he was still in his deathbed. They were holding on a microphone to his mouth, and he was reciting this. He was giving translation. His mind was very focused, and he was giving purports and translation till the last breath, until he left. So this is amazing. So, and I have seen also many people in the movement, a lot of senior devotees and things and people like that who have left very, very auspiciously. So we have, devotees who have chanted the last words. They say, some of them, Radha, Govinda, like that. They will chant and they live and they die. So this is possible. It's definitely possible by executing. It's not too late for any of us. So actually, somebody asked Prabhupada, how long will it take, Prabhupada, for us to purify ourselves and come to this platform? Prabhupada looked at him and said, it can take just 1 second, or it can take a lifetime. Depends on your faith. So there are examples in the scripture also. There is one king who completely within 1 second, he gave up everything. It's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are two kings actually, examples. One is Bali Maharaj. The other one is, I forgot his name. So there was a person, I forgot his name. They were doing everything else, but then when the time came, they were, with great faith, they were able to give up everything and surrender completely to the lotus feet of the Lord. So different people, different nature, but it's all auspicious in that sense. So then continuing, verse 15. So like that, Krishna will go on saying why death is significant. Death is important. Death is the exam. Life is the preparation. Death is the exam, which determines our next destination. So we can either remain in the material world taking various forms, or we can once and for all go to the spiritual world. And how this is done? By Krishna Smaranam, remembering the Lord. And how can we remember the Lord? By devotional seva, starting from hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, which will lead to Smaranam. And the most important process here is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And why? And then Krishna goes, why is it necessary to attain him? Because one who attains me, Krishna says, right, you will not go through any more suffering, because my abode is free from this, free from all kinds of material problems. So everywhere in the material world, Krishna says, he goes on, he says, from the highest planet in the material world, which is Brahmaloka, down to the lowest of planets, right, which is the Atala, Pitala, and then there is the hellish planets. They are all places of misery. What are these misery? The 4 conditions of life. Birth, disease, Janma, Janma, Vyadi, Jara, and Mrityu. Birth, disease, old age, and death. And at the same time, they are subjected to Adi Atmika, Adi Bautika, Adi Devika. Miseries due to the mind, miseries due to the other living entities, miseries due to the Devatas, caused by the Devatas, due to our karma. So these are all the various problems one goes through in life. And it is a place of Dukkalayam, Dukkha Alayam, a place of misery, certified. And it is asashvatam, whatever temporary, whatever situation that we may be in. Sometimes we may get a good situation within this material world. We may become Indra, we may become a king, we may become one of the Devatas, but it is temporary. It's not permanent. We will have to come down again. So when that happens, the whole cycle starts again. So it goes on. So therefore, Krishna says, but one who attains to my abode, O Kunti, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. And then in this way, he goes on about the destination, right? He starts talking about various ways on how people leave the body. He talks about how the jnanis leave the body. And he also talks about how devotees, they completely depend on the Lord. So the VIP path of departure. So Krishna says, this is the last verse of the chapter 8. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. So Krishna is saying you have nothing to lose to become a devotee. In fact, everything to gain. Whatever that is gained from any other process, you will gain in full and more simply by following devotional service unto me. Right? So he says, by one performs charity, one performs sacrifices, all this is small. But by performing devotional service, simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord, one attains much more compared to any of these other activities. So simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these. And at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So this is Krishna's promise. And therefore he says later on, right? Surrender unto me. So in this way, I will bring you. You don't have to worry about everything else. So we saw here how the Lord Vishnu was thinking about how to deliver this Bhava Sharma, right? So he never forsakes anybody. The Supreme Lord, we are all his children. Every one of us, not just humans, every living entity, every spark and soul, we are all Anu, very, very small. But Krishna never forgot any one of us. He's waiting for all of us to come back to him and eternally spend different pastimes with the Supreme Lord. In loving devotional service, loving devotional reciprocation. He gives also various ways on how we can serve the Lord as a servant. We can be neutral. Many people in Vaikuntha, they are neutral. They don't directly do seva, but they glorify the Lord in their mind and they go on with their situation. But there are those also who are even more pure, even more perfect. So in Vaikuntha, there is perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. So like that, the level of relationship with the Lord is ever expanding. You can get more and more and more devotion, more and more prema bhakti. There are different levels of prema bhakti also. And the highest of all the prema bhakti is shown by the gopis towards the Lord. So the gopis is described to have the highest. Amongst all the thousands of gopis in the spiritual world, 108 of them have the highest prema. And out of these 108, 8 of them have called the principal Shakis or the principal gopis. And they have the highest devotion to the Lord. And out of these 8, right, there is Radharani. And Radharani has the highest devotion towards the Supreme Lord. The prema bhakti that she has is not possible for anyone else to have. So in this way, this is basically what Krishna is telling, how to attain the Supreme. And he really means the Supreme, not Brahman, not Paramatma, but the ultimate Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the spiritual world. All right, so now we are done with this. So let's go to speak about practical spirituality. So we have covered I've covered 4 of the boats, and while speaking Gita Mahatmya, I'm covering the 5th boat also, which is Shastras, right? Gita. And chanting the holy names, I have not covered. That one I will give another, in another class, we will talk about that. So before that, I want to speak about practical spirituality. So Tilak. So previously, Dato, you asked me also about Tilak, right? What are the different shapes and everything? So anyway, so today we will speak about it a little bit more. So Tilak is also called Urdhva Pundra. So this is Urdhva Pundra Tilak. It's one of the items which are received during initiation. But actually, one doesn't have to wait for initiation to put Tilak. But one who does get initiation, Diksha, Diksha Guru, one who accepts the Diksha Guru and becomes initiated. Initiation, what is initiation? Initiation simply means spiritual rebirth. It means that one is now serious in one's spiritual life. So therefore, they accept a Guru and then they take up this initiation, in which it's said that the father is the spiritual. We have two births, right? One birth is by the seminal birth. The father and the mother, we have no choice in the matter. We take that birth forcefully, pushed by karma and desire. We take this birth. But the Aryans also have a second birth. And this second birth is where we are able to, give our commitment to spiritual life. That means we tell we are done with materialistic activities. We will now want to, it doesn't mean like we are giving up everything and going and becoming sannyasis like that. No, it's not like that. It simply means that now we have a real goal in life, and that goal is attaining the Supreme Lord. And every other activity which we do, like having a family or having a job or maintaining this or maintaining that, all this eventually is it's just a means towards an end. And the end is to have commitment towards the Supreme Lord. So when devotees get initiated, right, this is one of the things which are given. There are 8 things actually. The holy name is one thing which is given, and the Tilak is another thing. But as I said, the holy name and Tilak, we can even start right now. It's not, there are some things which are compulsory only during initiation, and that is like chanting Gayatri Mantra. So Gayatri Mantra is only done when one accepts formal Diksha initiation by Brahmana initiation. Actually, Gayatri Mantra, normal people cannot say Gayatri Mantra because it is especially meant for Brahmanas only. So anyone else who says it, it will not give the effect. And on top of that, it is also offensive. So we have to be careful about that. So this is basically, anyway, I don't want to go into other aspects of initiation. That's a very big topic. We can discuss that some other time. But I want to constrain to Tilak. So this is the Gaudiya Vaishnava Tilak. This is how we apply Tilak. This part on top, the U, that represents the lotus feet of the Lord. So, and this part here represents the Tulasi. So we apply Tulasi on the lotus feet of the Lord. So therefore we capture that and we put it on our bodies. So usually we will see that it's on the head, but that's not all. Actually, we put Tilak in 12 places on the body. And it's done each time we take a bath. After a fresh bath, we apply Tilak, and there is a way to do this. So just a bit of that. Actually, why do we put Tilak also? Tilak is basically to indicate that we are now a servant. Officially, we are now a servant of the Supreme Lord, like that. So we are like, sometimes cows, if you go to the farm, they tag the cows. They put a tag on the ear of the cow. So the cow is now number 343, like that. So in this way, this is like a tag. We put a chop on the head, on our bodies, and we are now declaring to the Lord that I am now trying to be your devotee. I want to concentrate my life to be. And it's very purifying also. Putting Tilak purifies our body. It converts our body into a temple where the Supreme Lord becomes pleased to reside on. So here, Srila Prabhupada, you can see a picture of how Srila Prabhupada puts Tilak. Srila Prabhupada glorifies Tilak in the following Srimad Bhagavatam purport. In Kali Yuga, one can hardly acquire gold or jeweled ornaments. But the 12 tilaka marks on the body are sufficient as auspicious decorations to purify the body. So not only is an auspicious decoration, it purifies the body and establishes and invokes auspiciousness and makes our body into a temple. So the Brahmana Purana states that a devotee who applies his tilak with great care while looking in a mirror or looking at his reflection in water goes to the Lord's supreme abode. So it's a devotional act. So this is basically to get us to do this seva. Simply putting tilak is a seva, is a devotional act. So it's not to be underestimated. So these are the 12 parts of the body where the tilak is put. It begins at the head. So when we apply, we take what is the substance? The substance is called Gopi Chandan. This Gopi Chandan is sacred clay, which is taken from the what do you call? I think it's a lake in Gujarat. It's a holy lake, and from there they take this, and also they mix it with Ganga and they mix it with sandalwood, but it's basically coming from that holy lake. So this is basically where the gopis have. I'm not sure about the gopis part, but anyway, it's a holy thing, and it's a very sacred substance. So, and you apply it on your palm, or you have a block of it. It's usually sold in a block or in a powder. You can buy it in our temple also, we have it. So you buy it and then you put a little bit of water and then you apply it and then you put it on your forehead. You use your fourth finger, right? Anything auspicious we touch with our fourth finger. Or you can use your third finger also. Fourth finger is best. Third finger is second best. But you never use the second finger, the pointer. The pointer is never used. Pointer is considered not auspicious. So we don't use the pointer to touch auspicious articles. So we use the fourth finger and apply, and we make the U first. We apply like that. And then we use the middle part of our finger to scrape away the center. So apply first to get a flat thing, and then you scrape away like this until you get a hollow section. So that is applying the top. And while you're applying, we say this mantra, Om Keshavaya Namaha. This is for the head. And then you apply the tulasi. So carefully apply the tulasi. And after that, we go straight down to the belly. So number 1 is here. Number 2 is the belly, the above the navel. So above the navel, we say Om Narayanaya Namaha, and we apply the tilak. So you don't have to be so careful as the head, but you can somehow get the shape. Try, I mean, it doesn't have to be so perfect, but we can try to get the shape on the belly. And then on the chest area, we say Om Madhavaya Namaha. And then in the throat, actually it's not here, it's in the throat, right? You can see here there's a Kantimala, it's at the throat. So here, Om Govindaya Namaha. So Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. And then on the right side of the belly, which is the waist, so there you say Om Vishnave Namaha. And then on the right side of the arm, lower arm, say Om Madhusudanaya Namaha. And then the top part of the right arm, Om Trivikramaya Namaha. And then after that, the left side of the belly, we say Om Vamanaya Namaha. And then on the left side of the lower arm, this area, so we say Om Sridharaya Namaha. And then the upper part of the shoulder, left shoulder, we say Om Rishikeshaya Namaha. And then we do the back. So the back is upper back, Om Padmanabhaya Namaha, and the lower back, Om Damodaraya Namaha. And then if there is any remainder tilak left on your finger after the last application, we apply it on the head and we just say Om Vasudevaya Namaha. So that's not another thing. So it's only 12. This is not the 13th. This is simply rubbing off the remainder tilak on our head. And when we rub off, we say sometimes Om Vasudevaya Namaha. So this is how we apply. So as we apply this, we become is basically to convert the body into a temple. And in this way, we establish the Lord with these mantras. So these mantras are not ordinary, and these positions are not ordinary also, because these are all, spiritual nerve endings. It's not arbitrarily we put them. These areas are all spiritual nerve endings. And when we apply this tilak in those areas, we help to protect the body from various things. So, things like Brahma Rakshasa, ghosts, inauspicious things, curses, witchcraft, all this will not affect as long as we have tilak, as long as we have tulasi on the neck, and we have faith. So these three things are very important. And it also, it's one of the activities of devotion. Simply by putting these things, it is an act of devotion. Right? So that is, and here I'm showing you various forms of tilak in different sampradaya. So there is no picture given in the scriptures, but it's given by the gurus. And sometimes the Lord, when he comes, so his devotees, they get this shape of the tilak. So this is Gaudiya Sampradaya. So as I told you, there are 4 major sampradayas which are recognized by the Padma Purana, which is valid in Kali Yuga. So that is the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, Nimbarka Sampradaya, and the Shri Sampradaya. So in those sampradayas also, along the years, there are some slight variations. So Nimbarka Sampradaya, they are not very, they are a small sampradaya, not very big and all that. So not many deviations, or I wouldn't say deviations. It's not deviations. Sorry, apologize for that. It's, a bit of differences in philosophy, not major differences, just slight. It's basically where the emphasis is placed, that's all. So it's all in the same area, and sometimes it is by the will of the Lord also. There are some stories where certain tilaks are only especially meant for certain people. So there's one tilak in the Gaudiya Sampradaya which came from Radharani herself. So that's only meant for that person and for his particular lineage. So in general, Gaudiya Sampradaya is this basic form. A bit of small variations, but mainly based on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya. So we follow this. And Madhvas, they also have the same idea also, but instead of putting Tulasi, they put a line, a red line, which represents Shri, or the energy of the Supreme Lord. Sri Sampradaya also, they put the U and they put the lotus feet of the Lord. The center line is basically representing Lakshmi. So it's always the Lord and the lotus feet of the Lord and his energy. So, or his devotee. So feet and devotee, which is part of the energy. So feet and energy. So like that, this is complete. So in this way, this is the technology of the tilak. So these 4 are mentioned in the Padma Purana. So then from here, there are some other variations. I wouldn't say deviations or whatever, but along the years, there are some offshoots here and there. So we don't want to offend anyone. So I'm just putting here, these are some other pictures, right? But there are some which are, Vishnu Swami is also coming from the, this is a valid Sampradaya. I forgot to mention, Vishnu Swami Sampradaya is a valid Sampradaya. This one is also, so Madhva is part of Gaudiya. Gaudiya is part of Madhva rather. So this is one Sampradaya, Nimbarka another, Shri another, and Vishnu Swami's, this is Rudra Sampradaya, which is the 4th one. This one is a variation of Sri Sampradaya, because later on, Ramanuja's Sampradaya, there was a separation between 2. There's some 2 major branches. So some of them went slightly different. There were 2 major disciples like that. And so, but basically, Vaishnavas, they have the vertical tilak. So the vertical tilak representing the lotus feet and the energy or the devotee. Whereas this type of tilak here, the horizontal type of tilak or the horizontal variation, now this is usually from the Shiva and the Shaktas. So worshippers of Lord Shiva and worshippers of Lord of Parvati or Durga, they will have this kind of tilaks, horizontal. So why horizontal? Basically, it comes from the Brahmavadis. That means those who worship Brahman, those who want to attain Brahman. So usually you will find also in Lord Shiva's lineage also, a lot of them will eventually say that Lord Shiva is actually Brahman, part of that Brahman. So which is true, everything is Brahman, yes, but they feel that the Brahman is higher compared to the form. So they do not understand, but they at the same time don't offend the form also. So these are called Brahmavadis. So they have they have horizontal tilak. Their aim is to achieve the undifferentiated Brahman. But at the same time, there are also someone called Mayavadis. Now, Mayavadis are like Brahmavadis, but they are offensive to the Vaishnavas. They do not accept the form of the Lord. They are offensive to the Lord and they do not accept the form of the Lord. So they say the form of the Lord is illusion. The personality of the Lord is illusion. They do not accept Bhagavan. They only accept Brahman. So because they don't accept certain other scriptures, they only accept certain parts of the scriptures in the Vedas, and the rest of it they ignore. So therefore, this is their conclusion. One day we will talk in detail about that, but not today. So this is basically all the different tilaks we can find. Okay, so with that, we would like to end. Let's together say this. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna, everybody. So, is there any questions anyone wants to raise or any clarification?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, I normally put my tilaks straight, 3 straight lines. Venkatachalapati, so is it okay?
Yeah.
I've been doing that for the last.
Vertical, right?
Vertical, yeah.
Yes. As long as it's vertical, that's fine. So, the lotus feet, when you say 3 straight lines, are they in the same color or what?
Same color.
So there's no difference.
The vibhuti is what we take, and then we put the 3 things.
Okay. Usually Vaishnavas don't use vibhuti. Vibhuti is more for the Mayavadis, Brahmavadis, and Lord Shiva's worshippers. Vaishnavas, they use for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we use Gopi Chandan. Like there are other Vaishnavas, they use other materials. I don't know about this, but I know usually vibhutis Vaishnavas don't use. There's some other like sandalwood pulp mixed with some holy clay. This is what they use.
Generally, we see get vibhuti in every temple. So
that vibhuti is basically more of a a Shaivite tradition. Saivite tradition, and it's also a Brahmavadi tradition. Actually, if you go to most Shaivite people, they themselves, they are actually Brahmavadis. They don't even accept Lord Shiva as the ultimate form of the Lord. They just use him as a means to attain Brahman. So eventually you dig deeper in their philosophy, and this is what will come out. So there are very few pure devotees of Lord Shiva who are purely worshipping him to serve him. I mean, there are, but not nowadays, not so much. Last time they were. Nowadays, it's more of Brahmavadi philosophy infiltrating Shaivism. So that's why, they'll end up saying everything is one. You worship Shiva, but eventually you also become Shiva. They will say, I'm Shiva, you are Shiva, everybody is Shiva. So that is actually a deviation.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Okay. So you can also get this tilak. It's installed in our temple. By the way, the temple is opening 3rd of October. This Sunday onwards, they have opened the temples. It's just there's no program though. It's just darshan, and you can take darshan, and there will be prasadam, and the shop will be open also. If you like, you can go. You can buy it online. We have online. You can buy, or you can also go there. Lots of things there. You can get a tilak. It's a very small tilak cube. They sell it in blocks, or you can buy, small size or big size. So we can just apply it and we use it in our forehead. So with that, I think there's no more questions. If there's nothing else, then we can stop here. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and hopefully we can increase our faith step by step and continue with our hearing and our chanting, and eventually achieve our smaranam. So with that, Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki
Hare
jai,
Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribo.